everybody. Can you hear me now? Racing, I hope everybody can hear me and everybody's going to join us very, very soon. Thank you, Lisa, for staying with us. We're going to bring her up out of that green room. We're not going to keep her in the dark anymore. I hope you guys get connected and stay with us because this show promises a lot as every other show that we bring on. We know many people right now are really concerned about the politics, what's going down. I have my position. I've always been clear, and I will always stand for what I believe in. And those who know me know that that is my reality. So, no further ado, this kind, generous soul who I've heard that when she's punching, she punches really hard. So, bienvenida Lisa, bienvenida. She is coming up to join us on screen and to share what she does so well. There she
Hey, I see
is.
us. I see me. I see me. Where are you?
It's all about you, girlfriend. It's all about you.
Oh, okay. There we go. Oh, you keep popping in and out.
That's what we do. Let's keep you on screen, which is my most important thing. Can you start us up with telling us what we're not worried about your introduction because I'm going to do a really nice one. I met you. Lisa and I met at an event. We're not going to talk about the event because I'm not concerned about that. I was blown away with the kind of work that Lisa does. We were sharing the table. I can express my gratitude to Latin Financial, who actually sponsored the table where I was sitting at. And it was a blessing in disguise. And then we'll share a little secret about who was sitting at the table. And that was like a popcorn moment, wasn't it? It was
Yes,
like,
it was. It was very
so
exciting.
it was awesome. So as you see on the rolling of the screen is Lisa Crespo-Gerald. She's the executive director of a project, my brothers and sisters, Project Pardon. And Lisa, what does this mean? What
So,
does that even mean in the law?
Project Pardon, what I do is criminal record pardon applications in the state of Connecticut, meaning after so many years of being on the opposite side, I'm helping people actually get their criminal records cleaned. By
Mhm.
submitting the application in the Board of Pardons and Parole, they make all the decisions as to what's going to happen with each application individually.
So why do people need this?
Well, I mean, there's a ton of reasons. Having a criminal record impedes housing, impedes employment, especially employment. For some people, it's a matter of self-esteem, pride, depression, leaving a legacy of a clean record. For some people, their children can look it up on the internet, although this is not going to always clean what's on the internet, but at least their actual criminal records are completely expunged, cleared, erased, whatever word you want to use. That's what happens.
Well, Lisa, I want to talk a little bit about what are those criminal records because I know so many people are like, well, you know what? If somebody committed a crime, they're on your own, whatever. Let them do whatever it is they need to do.
Yep.
Why are we involved in this?
So, for many reasons, I don't know if I can or speak on where I came from, if that's okay.
Please.
So I came from probation. I was there for over 20 years. And I saw so many people saying that they were wondering when things would come off their record. And basically, they never did. It'd be on there forever. People didn't understand that. People are running into barriers later on. And at some point, people they're still being punished, right? Because people are judging what they've done in the past. It could be 10, 20, 30 years later. I've gotten those calls. Like, it's been 30 years. I don't understand why this is, still coming up. And it's your criminal record. And unfortunately, without some type of expungement or erasure or something like that, it doesn't get cleared. There's different options to do that, but I'm one of them.
So I've done my time. I've done 5, 7 years, whatever it is, for whatever reason I have. And we know that we have a lot of people who are incarcerated who we can argue all day that should not be there. So that's part of my world. And there are others who have misdemeanors, and then we have the discrimination and all the disparities and all that kind of stuff. That's not what we're focusing on.
Mhm.
What we're focusing on is, how do you continue with your life when you've done your time. I have done what society has asked of me. I have broken the law, and if that has been proven, I have done my time. This being on my record is going to impede so many things, as you said, for me going forward. Why am I still being penalized? And that's when I call Lisa.
Yes, you can, and we can determine if you're eligible. We can tell you what your options are. There's options from trying this yourself to attorneys to new legislation that's coming up, which is exciting. I'm hoping it could be a little bit more robust, but for right now, the limited opportunities that came up are something that I didn't think I would ever see. So,
Do you believe that the work, because there's something that you, in our conversation that you and I had, there's something you said, and it's a practice I use myself, is when I don't think I am the right match for someone, I don't disregard what their need, concern, desire, or mission is. What I do is I give them referrals to someone who I actually think is a better match for them. Um,
absolutely,
but as a businesswoman, because you are a businesswoman,
I
all right,
absolutely.
how does that play into the work you do? Because that's very hardy, because there is a lot of unethical behavior. I speak on my own. This is my show, so I speak. I'm responsible for everything I say. So this is not Lisa. This is me talking about this. I mean, where does that come about? I mean, those are amazing ethics.
Yeah, it's not all about the money in this world. Our communities need change, right? And some people have unbelievable level of education or are very articulate and would be able to kind of try this on their own. And if that's the case, I've told people, you've got so much done, you're there. All the way to, someone just needs technology for help, help with the technology. And we're starting to do that because there are people who either don't have access to computers, don't understand how to use a scanner, but they wrote something well done, and they just need that piece. Then there's people who their situations are so much more complicated because they had different things that involve lawyers. And at that point in time, I need to respect my boundaries, what I am able to do within my training and experience, and say, hey, here's a lawyer, or I have a lawyer, a couple of them that make referrals to me, that I just turn around and say, hey, this is who you need to work with. So
And how do people respond to that?
I think some of them get confused.
Mhm.
Yeah, some of them get confused. Like, really? You would tell me that? You're a business person. Yes, I'm a business person, but my ethics are first. And for the most part, I think there's such value in what I have to offer. I would say most of them still come to me. If I'm in over my head, if I'm down under my, whatever it is, I will be the first to get the extra help from someone. We do have a lawyer who I work with, actually about 3 or 4 of them, but one of them is also a retired probation chief who is bilingual. She's Latina, and I can always refer to her, bring her in, for something that becomes a legal matter that's outside of us. Also, there's just individuals that are not in a good place or space to apply. And I tell them it's your right to apply, but I don't know how good your application is going to be based on what you have or have not been doing. And that's not an easy conversation to have.
I was just going to go there because I know that that's not my area, but I know that when I have conversations with my brothers and sisters out in the street, or we're in a meeting, or somebody feels comfortable enough to say, Hola, Saimi, to say, Lily, do you know someone? And they tell me something about, I'm like, don't even tell me you, because I don't want to muddy the waters for you. But working with certain people through the years, I like cross my fingers and go, oh, I hope they know something I don't know. And lots of times they do. But there is times that I already know that this person is not in a place where they're a good candidate for it. So can you help us a little bit of educate us on what's a good candidate look like?
So a good candidate, wow, that's a lot. First of all, they have to meet the eligibility requirements that they are the eligibility of the board. But a good candidate for me personally, in my professional opinion and experience, is someone who's made positive changes. It's a significant time since their last arrest. How are they supported by their families, their friends? What have they changed about person, places, things? What have they done about histories of substance abuse? Does their mental health look like in terms of, yes, I had this mental health problem at the time. How did I overcome that? How do I continue to be well and be well supported? Was there education? Was there, long-term employment? There's so many things that go into the person. It's like a holistic approach, and it's an approach I learned about coming from doing assessments all those years, writing for judges, supervising those units that did the same thing, and for the same systems that are now using our work.
So coming from the background, I mean, you're a Latina woman. I had a chance to break bread because we literally did. Uh,
Yes, and it was good bread.
it was good bread,
Oh,
that's for sure. um, we had an opportunity to be in the same space. And how does someone from tell us a little bit about your background, because you don't get this type of spunk, all of a sudden. You're born with something. There's something that sparks in you, and that calls for injustice, or you see it, or you hear it, or you experience it. What happened to little Lisa, as one of my girlfriends likes to say? What happened to little Lydia?
it happened a little Lisa. I don't know. A lot of things happen a little Lisa. I
Mm.
think that being born to a young mom and my dad, I saw education as something that she pursued, and she, although didn't have the same opportunities educationally that we had at first, she really pushed my cousins and I, along with my family, to be first generation college students, professional women, being supported by other professional women, family wise, and then coming up to also my sorority sisters, who just fill my world with educated, powerful, ambitious Latinas.
Wow. So you take on this challenge, and then you're placed, because that's where you were. You're placed in a pretty much male dominated environment.
I have to say that was.
I don't know that I wouldn't argue that we're still, minority within the minority, but that's another show. So how do you navigate the system? You are a Latina woman, you are well educated, qualified, all of those type of things. How do you integrate yourself in the system? And the reason why I say this is because I have a couple of young ladies here who are studying, and they're studying law. Some of them are into and criminal science and that kind of stuff. And that's always a conversation of, we are still the minority within the minority. So to have someone like you helping them with your message today of, how do you play?
How do you play? Wow, that's a loaded question, Lily. Thank you. I think first of all, number one is faith, right? Because that has to
Ooh.
come above all things. I also believe that for me, it was ethics, right? Doing my work and making sure I did it well, being willing to invest the hours, having a family and a partner who is super supportive, right? Because
Mm.
there's those of our culture that deal with the jealousy of time and control and all that stuff. So
Mhm.
really, really a supportive husband and family. But inside the workplace is having just understanding what your expectations are, knowing your policies, knowing your procedures, trying and getting bumps and bruises along the way are okay because you don't learn if you don't fall and trip and being, I think it's more about how you get up. I got to say that the judicial branch has been more open, a lot more open to growth for people taking on positions of leadership, especially, of course, the court services division and probation. I'm grateful for that. Great mentor, my best friend, and looking for those people who are within the system who are always willing to give you a hand up as they move up. So
That is
that's
very powerful, people. Listen to this. This, and I talk about this all the time. One has to bring another one along. That's always been my policy. One brings another one along. And you and I were doing the same thing at that event. And we'll later on tell you how that happened. One of my people were there with me, and one of your senior, well, actually two
true. Yeah.
of your sisters were there with you. Um, Tell us, when do you decide to open your business? Because now you're going out of the
Probation.
system. Yeah, now you're going out of an established institution, system, rules. Other people can, be in charge of the oops when they happen systematically, that kind of stuff. Now you are the head lady. What inspires you to go and say, hey, it is time for me to do this?
So I think again, part of it is faith. Part of it is knowing early on that God just has something different for me. And maybe about 2 or 3 years before I retired, saying, this is what I want to do next. This is what I want to do next. I never hid it from, those people who are important to me. And one day I heard this over and over, and I believe it is that when you're ready to retire, and it's time to go. And that's what I did. I just said, "Hey, I want to do this, and I'm going to retire. And let's just, what's the worst thing that can happen when you're walking out faith and obedience?"
What's the worst
And
thing that can happen? I love that. What's the worst thing that can happen?
it
So
really does.
now, so now you open your business because this is a business, but you still stay in the field of helping others, channeling that education, that support service kind of
Mhm.
center, because people are looking at you and going, Lisa, I'm trusting you with my deepest of deepest of deepest, situations here. So
And they're
and in my life. So I could tell you where I was at one point. I have to disclose all of this. You might know some of it, you might not know some of it, but I'm going to bare my heart and soul to you in the hopes that there's something that could help me get to the other side. Is the goal of people to get this off their record? Is that the number one goal? Get it
that
off the record.
is that is the number one goal, is get it off their record, out of all law enforcement agencies, anywhere your official criminal record is, getting it off of there. Nobody can guarantee what third parties do, whether or not they update their records or not, but at least, you're going to run an official record. It's clean when this is done.
So let's talk a little bit about what the law has to offer. You have an amazing brochure. I will share it with people. We will share your website. My team does a really good job at doing that. Um, let's talk about what's the law say? How do you get a pardon? I mean, what does the
So
law say?
I'm going to say that I'm not a lawyer again.
Mhm, mhm,
So my training and experience come from what I do. There's
mhm.
actually a board of pardons who has a policy which talks about what needs to be done. First of all, it has to be 5 years since your sentencing date on a felony, 3 from a misdemeanor. You cannot have been to court and had a nollie in the last 13 months. There's a few more. You can't be on any supervision, no probation, no parole. And so there's a couple of other little things that, we need to look at. But I think that's really the gist of the eligibility screening.
So when people contact you, we have projects in the state of Connecticut that we are all, I think most of us who are advocates are aware. One of the things that I hear from them all the time is the demand. The demand is greater than they can, imagine at times, the time that they have to spend doing outreach and education and sometimes even intervention to get all of the departments to speak to one another. And you mentioned earlier that there are certain things that people can do on their own, and you are so transparent and willing and humble to say there is, I could help you with this part because it seems like this is the part you're struggling with.
Hmm.
Right? And that's not for free. That's not what I'm trying to say, people.
No.
Lisa's not our free girl. You know how I say this about all of our guests? I'm like, you got to pay. But it's important that we understand that you're willing to help with that part. So tell us, so I go to you and I may be tech savvy. Like I know how to get on the internet. I know how to do all of that kind of stuff. So where would you place me in all of that?
So at that point in the tech savvy, it really becomes about the quality of your narratives, right? And I think from all the years of doing so much stuff in the system is understanding the scoring tools of the industry in general. So being able to put together a quality statement, writing things out, asking the right questions. So there's so much of that that comes into what we do with our clients. We can go 3 to 6 hours of interviews over 2 or 3 appointments. Like it's really
Wow.
one service that they're getting. And what I tell probably most of my clients is if you can stand in front of the church and testify, like do it, and it comes out as a transparent testimony, if someone can hear your voice when they're reading your words, because I'm just taking the dictation of the words, following the questions. If that is can speak volumes, then I think it's going to speak volumes when it gets to where it needs to be.
Oh, that's a beautiful way to put it. It's your truth. It's another way of saying you're bringing your truth. Lisa, what are the things that what is, I mean, your heart and your soul is in this. People in the camera, we both decided to wear red. We'll talk about that
Oh
later.
no, I'm wearing my sorority burgundy. I'm not wearing
Oh,
red.
ooh, check. She put me in check. She's like, this is
No,
burgundy, girl. It's not red.
I wear my burgundy a lot.
So you have quality pardon applications, which we've discussed a little bit about, and you have informational workshops. People, I want us to concentrate on this for a little bit. This is information is so important in all of our communities. I don't care where you are. When you walk into things ill-informed, half informed, or on the whim, anybody can sell you anything, right? So they can even sell you a pear and you thought you were buying an apple. So that's as simple. So in the workshops, um, why do people hire you to do that? I know what I would hire you for, but
Right. I think it's just educating, and some of them are hosted by myself. Like, I'll host them and find a place. And I've just had about 4 or 5 events at a local community organization, a business center. And it's really about educating what is a pardon, what's the impact of the pardon. I have people who have victims to their pardon. Let's forget about you. Forget about what they did to you. What's your role? Right? Because we always have a role. If we're in a situation, we always have a role in it. So, getting folks to know that you need to be transparent about that too. That's all part of being able to sit in a workshop. My goal is, and I've done it once. It's like living today. So, like your pardon is tomorrow. What you have to do, I've let people know. Get a folder, like a simple folder, and write pardon on it. And anything that you accomplish, document it. Put it in your folder. So you build your folder, build your folder, build your folder. I don't care if you donate blood to the Red Cross, you are giving back, in which they need a lot of blood right now, by the way.
I do.
But it's something that you do. It doesn't matter how you choose to give back, but find ways to do it. With people who struggle with employment, going to places like the workplace, sometimes they come in here and they're struggling, and I'm like, hey, here's the flyer for the workplace. Or, somebody came in and they just were not at their emotional best, reopening old wounds. And I'm like, hey, I'm not the person for that piece, but I have a sorority sister. I have a friend in the community. They're therapists. They may be able to help support you through reopening some really serious, serious stuff. Because even my clients have spoken about being victims. There's a lot of trauma, especially amongst our women.
I have to tell you that the men that I have the privilege to serve, I'm always honored, painfully honored, if that makes any sense, when I hear their stories because they're so intimate and delicate. So, women and men are suffering. Women have been victims generation through generation, historically, that kind of stuff. So we're still fighting that. Don't get me. Everybody knows how I feel about Roe versus Wade, so that's a whole different conversation. We have a new guest coming on, and we're going to do that whole thing, because I think that the problem we have is lack of information. So when people think of pardon, one of the things that somebody said to me is, I saw your ad. Are you saying that now you're supporting criminals? And this was a very difficult conversation for me to have, ladies and gentlemen. Very difficult conversations for me to
Ma'am,
have.
yeah, but God pardons first, you know.
So I was like, well, let's take out the word criminal, okay? And let's think about so many things that can happen to one person. So many things that can become a snowball effect. I'm not saying
Mhm.
that there are people out there that are blinded by their anger and so on and so forth, but I'm talking about, you know, all of us can be in a situation that we wish we weren't. And then once we get out of that, I have guys, and you know this better than anybody else, being a probation officer, working in the system, all that guy. They get dropped off sometimes in the middle of winter with what they went in with wearing. So if you went in with slippers and now it's January and February and you got dropped off, that's how I've received you. And we have seen this over and over and over again. And there is lots of programs and there's a lot of things and that kind of thing. But there is clear division about where people will go and not go and
And I got
why.
to give probation a little bit of credit here because, the leadership did create the probation transition program. So it tries to catch some of that in advance with individuals who are coming from corrections to probation. So, they're trying to find they've many ways to kind of catch what's happening, but nobody or nothing is a catch-all.
No, no,
No, not at all.
nothing, nothing at all. And that's why we as a community need to continue to talk and connect with each other. And when we find that, we could say, wait a minute, we know somewhere you can go. So in my case, it was about finding a brother who would just say to me, look, I just got my papers. I just came out. I got nowhere to go. It's, 9:30 at night. Everything is closed. Okay, let's put you up somewhere until we can figure this out the next day and connect you to services, so on and so forth. How do we connect with you, Lisa, so we can start talking about, are we good candidates or not? We have your phone number here. We know your face now. I'm sure you're going to become a house guest because
Oh, thank you.
I hope so. I hope so.
Sure.
So you can continue to educate us and inform us. But how do people begin this conversation with you? Because
So
I know that I'd be the woman probably in the hallway, walking towards your office and in the hallway going, is she going to believe me? Is she going to believe me? It's, what am I going to have to tell her? What am I going to have to disclose? Do I want to go through all of this again? Is it worth it? How long does it take? So you have 3,000 questions before you even get to Lisa. So what
yeah.
are some of the lists? I tell this to people before they go see a doctor. I'm like, write down your questions that you're having right now in the kitchen. The ones you're having right now in the kitchen, because when you go into the doctor's office, he, she, or they, whatever your team is, they're going to answer three because you asked them three. And then you go back and you go, crap, I had 10. So, what are the
Right.
questions?
So the first thing is I go through the eligibility screening. I ask them a little bit about themselves. I do have a public program, online program where as they're talking to me, I'm taking a look at their criminal record from what I could see. And that particular system pulls from all public records. So I have a pretty good general idea of what we're talking about. So definitely it's an individualized conversation in addition to, asking the eligibility questions, but also introducing myself and my experience, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because you have to develop some level of confidence in who you're dealing with.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm a person who basically just picks up everything you did and uploads it and hits submit, and if that's right for you, great. But I'm not that person. And I think that leads to whether or not the person would like to proceed with me. Then they schedule an appointment, and we just do everything from fingerprints to tracking. And once they have a hearing, we talk about, well, what do you expect when you're up there on Zoom in front of the board if you have to be, and I'm just that, I think, conversation to say, hey, let me get to know you, get to know me, um, in no judgment. I mean, I supervised sex offenders for 8 years from probation. I supervised cases of substance abuse, death, murder, whatever you name it. I've seen it, I've dealt with it. So why judge? Like, there's no reason to. So I think that one-on-one conversation in the beginning needs to be super comfortable. And if a person says, yes, I want to try this based on what you're telling me, then it's, that first appointment, which lasts about an hour. And then we start scheduling the rest of their appointments to get them all the way through to the end.
So, I know nothing is absolute, as my husband likes to say, and this is a
Except for
reality.
the absolute pardon. They
Yes.
call it an absolute pardon.
But nothing is, like black and white is, and
Yeah.
and not one size fits all is never, and it's called life. Life can be messy, life can be beautiful, life can be all of these things. I'm glad to be alive, and healthy most of all. But um, when people are going through this, I don't bring guests in here that I don't get good vibes from.
Thank you.
I'm old school. No, no, I am. I'm
I
old school. People
appreciate
that know me know that. But what I got from you is that you weren't afraid to talk about this topic with compassion,
Thank you.
transparency, and you talked about your faith. And I thought, wow, there's more of us out there who are saying we can be activists, we can impact the world, we can create things, we can do all of that thing, and we can also love a higher power. And so that was very impactful, for me.
I think emotional for me to have encountered a couple of clients that I actually have had since the 90s and the early 2000s that have found me. And I had one say to me, and it was like, whoa, despite the fact that you we didn't go through the best route of probation because of their choices and their behavior. He said to me, but you, even in violation, you did it so lovingly. I'm like, what? And we're probably talking, it's 20 years later for that person to have said that to me and be like, you don't judge me. And I that face that you made, I made it with tears coming down my face. To see some of my clients from back then who are doing so well now, you know, having them tell me, hey, who better than you to know that I messed up? And I kept messing up and I drove my mother crazy and I drove you nuts. And because there's some of them did, and it was a lot of work on their part to get to that place where they're doing so much better.
It's nice to hear this part of you because it humanizes, and I've said this to quite a few people when I do my work, is there is a human in that probation officer.
Yeah, there's a lot of
They
brains
don't get,
now.
and I'm like, they don't get to take out their humanity. That's not possible. And we all handle and navigate the world differently, and some of us, are very similar in the way that we do things. But that is an amazing testimony that someone can give you, because you have this job to do. Like I tell a lot of people, I have this job to do, but I want to deliver in the best way that I know how. And I
Correct.
always want to look at someone in the eyes and say, this is the best that I got.
Yeah,
This is what I got. It's messy, it's ugly, it's but lying to you does not let me sleep. And I can't live with that.
I
And
agree.
so I don't do that. So I thank you, because you're humanizing that component. Because when I speak with probation officers, sometimes they're like, do people not think I'm human? Of course I'm human. Um, you know,
They are.
um,
They are. They laugh, they cry, they sweat it out, they worry, they care, but not everybody is willing to see that either,
yeah.
right? Because we have such systemic viewpoints, especially now with the way society looks at law enforcement or whatever. And there's this like healthy balance between, yes, there's a law enforcement piece, but there's this social work piece to probation. And how do you make those merge? The state of Connecticut, I will tell you, puts a lot of money into resources, but there's some resources that are just not finite. Like housing. Housing's huge.
Mm-mm.
Housing is huge. So
Yeah, I
they,
just had I just had a one of my boys actually get a housing voucher,
oh my
but
God, it's
that
awesome.
was lost it because finding employment was such a hard thing to do. So here he was holding on to this piece of gold that could give him, a way in to self-sufficiency, but at the other hand, finding employment was very, very difficult. And so, and there was a time frame in between that. And so
Well,
by the time you get to have the discussion, you're like at the end of that time
mm,
span that you have. And so that's why we need to like have these conversations so people
the
know.
workplace is, not the be all end all, but at least the workplace has a reentry program that helps people who have felonies get employment, right? And I know there's one in Bridgeport, and I believe they're in quite a few places. That's another resource. And sometimes lack of knowledge keeps us from going to those places.
And also, and I say this to people all the time, I don't know if you agree with me, Lisa, your experience may not be mine. So we ought to be very careful of what we hear out in the street. No, allí no te quieren, no, te van a tratar mal, no, they're not going to talk to you, da, 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 da. You don't know how it went for that person. You don't know what that person's particular um, entry was to this place, who they were talking to, how they were talking to this person. So you go and give it a go, is what I tell people all the time. It's like it's a service. You go and give it a go, because I think a lot of people go. I want to say hi to Saimi, to Julia, to Mokoyomba, who happens to be my daughter, to Eddie, to Madeline, to Michael Newman, who has a lot to say about this, to another of my brothers, to John, who is standing on his 2 feet. We celebrate John all the time. John is a great example of someone who took lots of punches, fought back, and got right back up to where he wanted to be. And he helps out a lot. My boy Jason. So I mention all these names because I want people to see people like you and to hear people that really are able to utilize services like yours and other programs and say, yes, if you give me the opportunity and open that door for me, I will. I will walk to the other side. So,
Yeah.
Lisa, you've been you've been a probation officer. So I'm sure, and let's be real, I'm sure you can smell BS from, you know, the truck of the truck of the truck that's going by the highway. On the highway, you're like, oh, that's BS. Um,
Yeah.
but you also can probably, because this has happened to me, you tell me if it's happened to you, that you could see that someone is not telling you everything because they're in fear.
Guarded.
Yeah, they're like giving you little by little by little by little because they're in fear because their story has not been believed for so long.
Yep.
And trust is I want to use this with all of you guys, and I hope that you use it. We always have a contest here, so you'll be part of it, Lisa. Here, but where people take money home. Um, I just learned this from Brene Brown, and it's called the trust. Um, and how do we build trust? And people think, well, we had one interaction and that was really nice. No, that's you build trust with time. And so you can do this at home if you like, with your children, yourself, whatever. You put a jar, if you will, and you put pebbles, whatever you want to put in there, marshmallows. Careful, because I would eat the marshmallows, but if you
Me
want to put,
too. My favorite. Beeps.
so if you put them there, I'm going to break the trust because I'm going to be the person in your house going for the marshmallows.
It's so
Um,
funny.
but you can put anything in there, and that's how you start building trust, and not only trust with others but with yourself. Can I trust myself to make that phone call? Can I trust myself enough to make that phone call? And and I say this because doing the work that you do, walking into that office and calling you, that's huge step.
That is a really big step. Really
So
big step.
it's okay, and I say this to people when I do mental health trainings, as a survivor, as a brain injury survivor, and all this kind of stuff, is step by step by step. You may call her one time and say, well, what's the cost, what's this, and you're going to feel her out, and you're going to hear her voice, and you're going to see if that feels okay for you. That's okay too. I say that to people all the time. Just give yourself some time to do that, but it's really about building trust, not only with others but with yourself, because then you're presenting the real you, and it takes time to find the real you. Lisa, you are in what side of the state? I know it because I'm looking at your stuff here, but I want you to tell us.
So I'm actually born and raised and working out of Bridgeport, but I have to say that we can work with anybody with the state of Connecticut record. I do Zoom. We can figure it out. We definitely can figure it out.
So if you hear her words, you know why she's on today. We can figure it out. That's one of my favorite ones. I'm like, well, we're just gonna figure this out. I don't know how we're gonna do it, but we're gonna do it. Tell us a little bit, Lisa. Why do you pay someone like yourself? Because a lot of people will say, and I have these conversations all the time. I had it with you when we were on the phone.
Mhm.
Um, a lot of people will say, well, why would I go pay someone when the system is supposed to offer this for free for me?
Right. So
Tell
some
us a
people
little bit of the benefits of having a Lisa.
having a Lisa, well, I think part of the benefit is my experience and my training, right? So some of it, a lot of it comes by nature with being trained in motivational interviewing, client engagement, pre-sentence investigations, writing for the courts for sentencing, understanding the assessment tools. There's a great value in the person who comes in and answers 5 questions, and we have 10 paragraphs that are not fluffy words. It's meaningful and impactful stuff. It's really where the transparency comes through, getting to know the person, because it makes decisions easier on the other side. And again, this is my opinion. There was great value in the training that I received. I could tell you, I think we calculated well over 1,000 hours of training over 20 years, maybe more. There's so much value in that, understanding the application, having the time to run around and get records, which some people are working and can't get records. Doing the in-house, when you come for your first appointment, getting your fingerprints done here means you might not have to drive to Middletown, or might not have to try to make an appointment with the local police department. It's convenience, running around town, 2, 3 towns, getting police reports. All that stuff is done for our clients directly.
So it's really holistic. You're
Yeah, it
not,
is.
it is really holistic.
When you talk about somebody who has to take time off of work to go do all this running around, it costs them. And if you're an hourly worker who's making maybe, whatever you're making, but it's hourly and you have to miss hours and you're missing hours and your boss is on you, or you just don't want to be bothered doing it yourself. Those are just all different reasons that people come,
Do
or
you
they're
have
not confident in what they can provide themselves.
And so what you're listening today here on Lily Sin Barreras, you have her on the screen, and it's called Second Chances, and it's the gift. Lisa and I were talking, and she said the gift of pardon. But I just want to let you know that what you see is what you get. She's the person I spend time on the table, nothing switched off. That's the person I saw the entire time that we're there. She spoke to anybody who would speak to her, and also brought other people with her to the table, and was happy to do that. I think that it's extremely um, important that we are engaging with people who understand our walk. Because if we have to explain every little thing, it becomes even more painful. So sometimes when somebody like Lisa, or Lisa in this case for us, understands probation, you don't have to explain to Lisa what probation looks like. You don't have to explain to her why you had to do XYZ, or they had to see you XYZ times, or the halfway house versus the this versus the that. Um, and she's not going to be blown away for whatever it is that you were incarcerated for, because she's already told you that she has been in charge of people that most of us would probably say, I don't want to deal with that.
Yeah.
I don't, I really don't. Thank God there's a Lisa. Because I don't want to deal with that. Um, but there is, and for some of my guys who are here who are already on my phone texting me and asking questions, we do have her information here at the bottom of the screen. You can call her office, make your appointments, and then make an informed decision. Lisa, remind us again, which is so important. Why do you want to do this? Why would somebody want to do this?
Why would somebody want to do this? I think one of we received a thank you card recently from a mom that said, "Thank you for giving my son his life back. His life back. You get it back in so many ways, using your education, using your talents, using your gifts, using just moving from a minimum wage job to something better, to changing and impacting your family, your independence, your self-esteem, judgment. Some people it brings on, a sense of depression or embarrassment. Like all of these little pieces are huge. And I think you said earlier, and it's been like really bugging me, I guess, is it's, you said somebody asked you, are you supporting criminals now? I'm like, wow. So when we think about all the times that we've made mistakes, don't we
Mhm.
want to be forgiven, right? I think that's one of the biggest thing. And you know what? You may think that certain things are unforgivable, and that's okay. But you know, what do you tell the person who was caught up in drugs and that was their life, or caught up in poverty and selling drugs was the only way that they what was around them, and they knew that that was their way out until they got some kind of a job or somebody gave them a chance. That's where it makes a difference.
And I think I love that word, a chance, because you're not asking for the magic to happen from someone else. You're asking for the opportunity to get a
Mhm.
chance. I have not been incarcerated, but I always share with people my journey. And I remember wanting to integrate myself into the world again. And I could not do the kind of work that I did before. My brain wouldn't allow for it. I didn't have the motor skills that I needed. And I remember um, my husband was like, it's okay, take your time. I was like, no, 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 I need to go do something. I remember going to Wendy's and not being able to handle. I'd say to people, do not be mean to people who work in fast food. You have no idea how hard that job is, and
No.
how mean we are. We are mean people. Just have the hamburger.
That's
Don't take
funny.
off the ketchup and put the ketchup into one of that stuff. Okay, just have the hamburger. That would be my shop. You want it or not? Because this job is so attention to detail, all this, but I couldn't handle it. I couldn't handle the buzzing of the fries coming out. I couldn't look at the screen. I couldn't read it. And they gave me a chance. I mean, these people were like, "Please stay with us," and I'm like, all I could do is mop maybe, and I couldn't even do that. So I went to clean houses. I went to like, and there was a lot where people like, why are you doing this? I'm like, because I have to integrate myself to being the me, whatever the me is now. Um, it is what I need to do. So trying to find um, a place where you belong, to integrate yourself and to reinvent yourself and to figure out where you belong next. Um, it's so important for someone to open that door. And for me was, and I always say it, was in a company called Help at Home, who gave me an opportunity, and I did home care, which I'd never done before, and it was one of the most beautiful jobs I had. And then I was a CNA, and people were like, "Aren't you embarrassed?" I'm like, "Embarrassed of what? Do you know what this job entails?" But
A lot of love.
it takes a lot to fight those beasts that are on you and going, "Oh, you used to have this and now you don't have that, and you used to have this big old job with this big old title and you don't have it anymore." So it takes a lot, and we are cruel people sometimes. So when we use our tongue, we must be kind, because you never know who you're talking to. You're talking to a mother, you're talking to a sister, you're talking to, someone who's lost a loved one, to this type of, disastrous, I don't fit anywhere. I don't get a chance, a door doesn't open for me, and it takes a lot of guts to go out and get those things. So I'm so glad, Lisa, you are doing what you are doing. I hope that we can come to your office and spend some time with you.
Vente.
Echa para acá.
Man.
And we would love to have you, but we can't have you leave without having our contest.
Okay.
We just can't. Marisol, Saimi, Carlos Otero, welcome, 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 everybody. Thank you so much, Lisa, for sticking out the technical difficulties. That's not a norm here, but every once in a while, Hey, CNN has it, Lily can have it. That's my take. It's like we all have it, right? But by the grace of God, everything worked out. So here is your $50 to take home. What did Lisa say that gave you that moment that you go, ay, qué bueno. Ay, qué bueno. What did you like about this conversation? What did Lisa say? And you can take those $50 home. So hit it up. I'm looking at your answers as we speak. We have 3 different screens. So not everybody gets to see the screen. Some people do the private because they don't want to be up on the screen. Some people are in, and so they're watching us there. Some people will watch the replay. Lisa's show will be on our YouTube channel, like every other show is. You can go back and listen to it. If you have a loved one that you're like, "Oh, this is something for my loved one, my friend, my cousin, for me," and you want to, sit down and listen to it and, process it, it will be there for as long as my channel is there. And you can do that. So, answers are coming in already. I can't believe she used to be a probation officer. I wish she was mine.
That's funny.
So start writing up. That is not an answer, people. That was cute. I wish she was mine. Emojis, emojis, emojis. Okay. John says, I no longer need the service. Lily, thank you so much for standing with me when I needed you and making sure that I got mine. But I
Yes.
encourage anybody to try as much as they can. And Lisa looks like the right woman to talk to. Mike says, she had so many inspiring things to say. It's easier for me to read from my tablet than to look at the
That's
screen.
okay.
I like the fact that you would help out even on the little things as well as in big cases. Thanks. It was a great show and a pleasure to watch her.
Thank you.
Isn't that beautiful? If only they were all like that.
I'm wondering if he's talking the pardons or the probation officers, because I've had my moments in both.
So you got 2 more minutes, people, to hit it up. Mike is up the run. Jason is trying to get his words in. I can see him typing as we speak. Now, I want to remind everyone that although Lisa's office is in Bridgeport, stop me anytime, Lisa, if I say anything that's not right. You will find her website. You have her number here. You can look her up on the social media. It is out there. So she is well known and obviously well respected because that's the only way you get up on those ranks.
Is that
Her-
where I'm at the top? I think it's Jordan that does that for me.
Jordan. Jordan,
Jordan.
Jordan. Okay, so before we finish the show, can we talk about my experience with Jordan? Is that okay?
I love Jordan and I would love you too.
So for all of you that know and don't know, when our families from Puerto Rico came, yo me tiré a la cocina because, uno se tira lo que uno sabe. And sometimes you got to take care of the emergency. And right, so you get a crew. And so we started cooking. And with the cooking, there's pictures of me that you'll see, which are very interesting with my greasy face in the kitchen in a ponytail and on a computer at the same time to do the advocacy. It is so painful because my family is in Puerto Rico. I have puppies here, mommy's over there. You know how it goes. So my family was safe in the south, the north, the northeast, and in San Juan.
Awesome.
All of them were safe. That doesn't mean that the trauma didn't affect them. It just meant that we didn't lose lives, we didn't lose property. We only had one family member who lost everything inside the apartment, and everybody came together, and that was replaced. The trauma is something that everybody is still um,
Yes, it
going
is.
through. But that said, I'm sitting at the table and I see this young woman, beautiful young woman with this big smile. And I'm like, wow, she's super friendly. That's great. And then Lisa is tell her, tell her, tell her. And I'm like, okay. Okay. So then she tells me that you tell us it was a project that she did for school.
She did a project you did for school and she did it on part of it was your work. And she couldn't believe that you, the superstar in her project, were actually on the other side of the table.
It was one of, if you want to talk about one of those moments where I believe God says to you, "You did my work," was when Jordan said that. It was really that little, feather that touches you in the heart that says, "I did the right thing."
She's
And
amazing.
and she was delightful. We had a chance to have lunch. That was great. So I really liked her, and I'm sure that we'll see a lot of good things coming out of her, more and more and more and more.
She's
So
getting some good stuff going right now. So she
uh,
texted me yesterday.
she's just a wonderful, wonderful young woman, a great addition to our sisterhood. And for me, because I had not met her. So if it wasn't for Lisa, I would have never known. But it was so beautiful to have someone at such a tender age.
Yeah, so
Um,
she's my sorority sister. So I'm in a Latina sorority and we help one another. She needed an internship. She became my intern. And within that internship, she's just so talented at social media that she's just taken it on. And I'm like, thank you, thank you, thank you. And she's got lots of big things coming through social media and her work. Big career ahead.
so she is on the move. And
Yeah.
so if Jordan tells me of any project she's doing, I will share it with you. But I wanted you to meet Lisa. I hope, Lisa, that you will come back and share more with us and maybe even do a training with us where we can have an audience for you so
Okay.
you can help us walk through that. Um, Oh, but I want to share a couple of comments because I think we have a winner by the votes. One of the comments is, Lisa, thank you so much for caring for people when they were bleeding their hearts out.
Thank you.
Another one says, Lisa, I like your spunk. I would not want to mess with you.
I have my moments.
Oiga, es brava, es brava, lo vieron, qué brava. Eso es bueno, eso es bueno, eso es bueno. There's a smile next to it, so it's very loving. Another the comment says, it is a pleasure to know that there are women out there willing to help regardless of what your gender is, and treat you with kindness, respect, and dignity.
I
There are
love it.
so many of us out there in the shadows because we are terrified of coming out and telling our stories.
You have to have a safe place. Find it. They're out there. They're out there.
So, although Lisa is in Bridgeport, as you heard, she is statewide for you because due to technology, there's so much we can do now. And if you want to make her the guest of the month, you know how to do that. Hit us
Oh,
up and let us know that you want her to be the guest of the month, and we will bring her on to our new platform that we will have where the show will be live. And Lisa, you can come and join us in the audience and be our
thank
guru out there in educating us. So it looks like Janice Otero is taking it. Janice says the following. I am a mother of four. Oh God, I gotta read this without crying. Okay. I am a mother of four. It's because of people like Lisa now that I can walk proudly with my daughters who are soon to be adults, 15, 16, 20, and 22. They know my story. However, I was able to get a pardon. And they always remind me, Mommy, you were so brave to erase the bad stuff from your past, but not forget who you were or have become. So I think that's a winner.
What? I'm feeling that because that is exactly encompasses everything we're talking about.
So there you go, Mama. It's yours. Just hit us up and let us know. Thank you for being here with us. Let us know how to find you. We can do this through Cash App, Zelle, or PayPal if you'd like to receive it that way, or traditional way in which she's the winner. Marisol says she is the winner.
She is.
Everybody,
I like that. Oh.
it's so great. So now you know that you have a resource in your community. Support your local businesses, and Lisa is one of them. We are all trying to make a living. Congratulations and keep your head up. Yep. Um, so I wanted to leave you guys with something that's really important to me. We continue to fight each other and not listen. If we can listen more, I think there would be less fighting and more working together. We don't have to agree on everything. Hell, we didn't ever agree. She's like, I'm burgundy and I'm red. And I said she was red. She's like, hey, it's burgundy.
Burgundy and gray,
Um,
okay.
and but it's okay. It's okay. I think most of us, I want to think that most of us in our hearts just want to be good, decent people. So let's give everybody the opportunity to do that. But I will close with telling you this. That will probably shock many of you. And I lose followers all the time when I say things like this. And I know it's part of the journey. I went to my pastor today, Gary, and Pastor Gary de la Rosa, and I said to him, listen, because I like to give him heads up because I'm associated. And so I want him to know. And I always do this in my little life with him. And I said, Roe versus Wade impacted me very, very, very. Because it's not only about abortions, it's about quality of health. And, it's a lot more keep your hands off my body kind of stuff. And so I don't need you to agree with me, but I need you to know that I will be out there and you will see my face and I will be shouting that we don't want this to go on and that we're not in agreement. And me means the tribe I work with. And the kindest words came out of my pastor. He said, I love you. We love you. You do what you need to do. And so if we could all understand that we all have a path and we don't always have to agree on that. And that was such a good way for me to end my morning, because that's what I've committed to let you know if I'm going to step into your area, Lisa, I'm going to say, hey, Lisa, I'm going to be here, but I want you to know what my position is. And I hope that doesn't take away from whatever it is that we've built.
Not at all.
But
Because I respect that.
I
And,
don't want to be shady, right? And so this
no,
is where I go. So I want to make sure that I'm respecting the house where I go. So for all of you, if you can find yourself, I'm going to talk about church or religion. I don't believe in none of that stuff. I I like believe in the higher power, and you rejoice wherever you want to rejoice. You can call it kumbala, blah blah blah. I don't care. I work with people from all walks of life, and I love that. But please remember that love is a verb, and it needs to be in action.
it's
El
universal.
amor es El amor es un verbo y tiene que estar en acción todo el tiempo. So, entre más amor podemos servir y menos odio podemos servir, entonces sí podemos impactar. Lisa, gracias, que Dios te bendiga. Gracias a toda tu familia, por toda esa
Gracias.
gente que te ha inspirado, for you to being brave enough to like go out there and get it, for you to decide that after retirement you were going to open a business. You
I
know,
don't know, but
I
it's
bet you
worth
I bet you weren't thinking of that, right? You were like,
No,
hey,
I
gotta
actually
be that.
was. Woo, I didn't know it would be this amazingly busy, but amazingly fruitful. So 98% of all my pardon applications have gone through.
If you don't have something to celebrate, there you go. Celebrate your sister Lisa. Please, please keep in touch with one another. If you want Lisa's information, it's on the screen, but my team has it. You can go back on the page also. You can see the marketing that we did. I think, Lisa, you have it on your social media as well. So
Yeah.
if people want to find you, and then you'll see the show on YouTube. When you subscribe and you share what we do, it allows us to get to more people. This is the house where we talk. We don't interview. Okay? This is not an interview. This is a chat with our community. Dios te bendiga, mamita. Dios te
Bye.
bendiga, te acompañe. Good night, everybody. See you next Sunday, or see you on Café con Lily tomorrow, I think.
Café con Lily. I'm starting
Right?
to watch.
Good night, everybody.